Senate approves 2021 to 2023 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. President Muhammadu Buhari to present 2021 appropriation bill to National Assembly this Thursday. Also approves Eastern Narrow Gauge Railway. Okonjo-Iweala gains more foothold as World Trade Organization election nears. Central Bank of Nigeria warns shipping companies over non-compliance with export procedures. Plus, commodity import index rises by 0.16%. Details of these and more on Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. So good to have you tuned to Business Express. News just reaching us says the Senate has approved the medium-term expenditure framework for 2021 to 2023. Meanwhile, the federal government has approved $3.2 billion contract for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the Port Harcourt to Maiduguri Eastern Narrow Gauge Railway with new branch lines and transshipment facilities. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, announced this while briefing journalists after the weekly meeting of the Federal Executive Council, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. He said approval has also been granted for the construction of a deep sea port in Bonny, as well as a railway industrial park in Port Harcourt.
The industrial park, which is under PP at no cost to the federal government, will cost $241, $154, $389.31 million. Then the Bonny Deep Sea Port will cost $461, $924, $369 million at no cost to the federal government. I want to repeat that.
The Federal Executive Council today approved the contract for the procurement and installation of automotive mechatronic equipment for the automotive mechatronic training center facilities in 6 geopolitical zones of the country and the FCT. The Automotive Development and Design Council has recorded a lot of success in bringing back assembly and manufacturing operations in the automotive sector. As a result of this, the proposed training centers will not only train Nigerians to maintain and service vehicles, but will also ensure that avoidable disasters arising from lack of skills by our teaming youth are prevented through periodic training and empowerment at an affordable cost.
Also, on behalf of the Minister for Works and Housing, I want to report that his memo for the completion of the rehabilitation of the Abeokuta-Ibadan Road, a distance of 72 kilometers, was approved today. It's actually it was a memo asking for augmentation by 788 million naira. The 2021 appropriation bill of 13.09 trillion naira
will be presented to the joint session of the National Assembly for necessary approval by President Muhammadu Buhari this Thursday. This was contained in an executive communication to the legislature as approved last Wednesday by the Federal Executive Council. The budget estimates will be formally laid by President Buhari at the House of Representatives chamber by 11 a.m. Senator Lawan says the budget proposal will be subjected to scrutiny by relevant committees of the upper legislative chamber in October, during which heads of ministries, departments and agencies will be expected to defend their estimates. The Petroleum Industry Bill 2020 has listed the specific functions of the 3 agencies that would replace the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) when the proposed legislation is passed and assented to by President Muhammadu Buhari. The 3 agencies to be created from the NNPC include the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. The bill states that the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission shall be responsible for the technical and commercial regulation of upstream petroleum operations and ensure compliance with all applicable laws and regulations governing the upstream petroleum operations. The bill further provides that the cost of winding down the assets, interest and liabilities of NNPC shall be borne by the federal government. In other economic news, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has projected a major fall in the country's foreign reserves to $29.9 billion by the end of 2020, citing decline in oil prices and the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The Apex Bank, in a report, stated that, sequel to the COVID-19 pandemic, the viability of the external sector in 2020 is expected to deteriorate given the present worsening current account balance and depletion of external reserves driven largely by decelerating export receipts, particularly oil. The bank added that the degree of external reserves accumulation is expected to decelerate as outflows are expected to outweigh inflows. However, the Apex Bank has reported a marginal increase in the reserves, recording $59 million growth to $35.7 billion last week from $35.7 billion as at August 29, 2020. The dollar held onto gains against most currencies on Wednesday after Republican U.S. President Donald Trump's abrupt cancellation of talks on economic stimulus. Let's see how the naira is exchanging for other international currencies. National Bureau of Statistics says the All Commodity Group Import Index rose in the second quarter of 2020. The NBS, in its commodity price indices and terms of trade for the second quarter of 2020 report, says the All Commodity Group Import Index rose by 0.16% between April and June 2020. The index was driven by an increase in the prices of footwear, headgear, umbrellas, sunshades, raw hides and skins, leather, as well as precious metals. The NBS also noted that between April and May, the All Commodity Group Import Index rose by 0.84%. And still talking commodity, gold prices hovered near a one-week low this Wednesday after U.S. President Donald Trump halted new stimulus talks, strengthening the dollar. on the capital market, trading resumed this morning upbeat a day after Nigeria's stock market outperformed her global peers. That was on Tuesday. It gained 4.92% to gain. However, stocks lost steam midweek at the close of trade this Wednesday. But they went back again to positive, making it the 13th straight time that the Nigerian Stock Exchange is gaining. The all-share index advanced to 28,634.35 basis points, while market capitalization closed at 14.966 trillion naira. Volume of trade was 832 million, valued at 9.53 billion naira. We have a guest joining us from Lagos to talk about the positive sentiment on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. In fact, the all-share index hit almost 5% on Tuesday, just as I said. This development that has thrilled market watchers as Nigerian market recorded a global best outcome. So we have our guest joining us all the way from Lagos. He is Rotimi Fakeyojo. It's a pleasure having you join us on Business Express, Mr. Fakeyojo.
Good afternoon.
All right. So the last time Nigerian stock market advanced this much was about 5 years ago. What do you make of this sentiment? The market is still sustaining that sentiment as we see the market close at a positive this Wednesday.
I think it was a big thrill yesterday in the markets because it all started as if on a normal day, but as trading, intraday trading continued, the market took a different turn. And we saw sectors gaining over 6.6%, like the banking sector stocks, the banking sector, and also the industrial goods as well, taking such a leap as well. But be that as it may, what actually took the eye of investors and brokers, that is the operators, is the fact that the volume of transaction done was commensurate to the index change, which was close to 5%. Now, we have seen this kind of thing before, but I think coming at this time actually shows that there's a renewed interest in the capital market, and investors believe strongly that the securities prices right now are very cheap, and that is the reason why they're going this route. More so for the fact that if you look at financial instruments within the sector, most fixed income securities are giving less than 10% in a year. But when you look at the returns on stock, on equities, vis-a-vis dividend yield, apart from capital appreciation, we are seeing dividend yield of some of the securities as high as 15%, 18%. Maybe take, for instance, GT Bank, Zenith Bank, and also some instances in other sectors. So this definitely is a big opportunity for investors, and I believe strongly that even though as that tempo was not sustained today, but whatever was available, because whenever a situation like this happens, investors may not really go for it as it were. They may believe that maybe the next day things might change otherwise. So they want to capitalize on the gain already taken. That is, they can save for now. So they realize their profits, and that is why we are seeing a downward trend of 0.99% today. But for me, I believe that the new trend in the market has come to stay, and we're definitely going to see a different.
So can you tell us what we are witnessing on the market now? Is it local investor sentiment or foreign investor sentiment that is boosting the market?
Well, looking at the securities that were actually traded yesterday, this is definitely foreign portfolio investors that we are seeing in action. And I think whenever it happens like this, the local investors will follow suit. So we are going to see a better trend going forward for the market.
Okay. So how do you see this development affecting the overall performance of the Nigerian economy?
Well, I think since we all know that the stock market performance is a barometer for the performance of the overall economy, I think a lot of people will begin to see a renewed interest in the economy right now. And I believe that with the way it is, things may not really be as slow as it was, except if there are some negative policies coming from the government, which I don't expect there will be as at this time. So invariably, the larger economy may actually be on the path of renewed interest for investors and also those things that are actually holding it back.
Okay.
Things are definitely going to change, but how fast that will be, whether it will still be in the same tempo with the stock market, we may not really be able to tell for now. But I believe that everybody is looking forward, and we are really very positive about the economy going forward.
All right, let's talk about the drivers of the market. What companies did you see or do you see still driving the market right now?
Well, the investors actually are very wise these days, and they took into consideration the fundamentals guiding any investment that they want to do. And if you look at the half-year performance of most securities, we will see that the telecoms, industrial goods, and the banking sector were actually the leaders in performance when it comes to their financials, in terms of profitability, in terms of earnings per share. So that also is to tell us that investors have taken to mind these three sectors, and that is why the concentration was very much on them yesterday. So we saw the Dangote cement in the industrial goods, we saw MTN in the telecom, and we saw the likes of virtually all the banks yesterday were on the gaining spiral. And for me, I believe if there are any sectors to actually follow now, those three sectors should be primary on the mind of every investor.
Okay, so do you see this rally being sustained?
Well, what we are seeing today is a negative closing position of the market, but that is also expected, because if overnight you have a return of 10%, then definitely you want to realize that, and that is exactly what we are seeing today. So over 9 billion naira value traded was traded today, and we expect that definitely that is maintaining a stability for the market, and going forward, we're definitely going to see a better things to come. So the prices right now are still, for me, are still very cheap, and they are still very much, they still have headroom for upward swing, and that definitely other investors who are very shrewd in their approach will definitely still capitalize on this, because at the time we see the third quarter result, it definitely will put to place the fears that investors were already having before, that there is really no place for such fear at all.
All right, Mr. Fakir, will you say that the Nigerian stock market has corrected itself? Is it too early to say that?
Well, what happened today, I don't think it's a correction at all, because investors, many of them are very short-term in nature, and there are many speculators within the market. So if you buy a security or holding a security and you make a 10% spread, definitely you want to sell. So it's not a correction that made the price, some of the index to go down today. Is actually the activities of speculators within the market. So when they wear out, then definitely we'll see the real investors coming into action and taking their rightful place.
Okay, so this rally, would you say it has anything to do with the regulators? That's the regulators of the market.
Well, it doesn't have, because the regulators don't have any input except for policies, and there is no new policy for now, and there is no manipulation in the market. What you see, what you buy, what you see is what you buy, and it's always an interplay between those who are selling and those who are buying. So it doesn't have any hand of the regulators at all.
Okay. What would you say is the place of FPIs in these recent developments?
Well, I think the foreign portfolio investors, the fear they be having is actually getting their money out as and when due. And over time, the CBN governor has given them assurance that anyone that wants to take the capital they once imported. Anyone that wants to take it back, to their homeland, it will be available for them. Though there was a hitch some time ago, but I believe that hitch has been corrected. So that definitely is the only thing that could have hindered foreign portfolio investors from coming back here. We know that most of the frontier markets have suffered a lot of capital flight, and Nigeria is no exception. So with the coming back now and at least making a new inroad into the market, it definitely will turn things around and make the market look better for future investment.
All right, Mr. Fakeojo, just before I let you go, what stocks should investors be looking out for in the coming weeks?
Well, like I said, the telecoms, the industrial goods, and also the banking sector stocks.
Oh.
At least for all those ones, even if you miss it in capital appreciation, you will not miss it in good dividend payout when the time arises.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rotimi Fakeojo, for your time. Mr. Rotimi Fakeojo is a capital market analyst, and he joined us from Lagos. On the global market, let's see how stocks are playing out with the news of President Donald Trump's health. Bosede Abel has an update.
Markets in the US and Asia have been reacting to Trump's tweet on Tuesday that the White House is halting talks with Democrats about a second coronavirus stimulus deal. European stocks were mixed early Wednesday as investors digested a robust round of earnings and President Donald Trump's decision to halt stimulus talks until after the November election. Asia stocks mostly advanced as President Donald Trump called off stimulus negotiation till after the November election. Hang Seng Index was 1% higher as of its final hour of trading. Nikkei dipped 23,422.82 and Shanghai Composite also depreciated by 0.2%. This development also affected most African stocks as they opened early trade mostly negative, aside Nigeria stocks which have been resolute recently. Bosede Abel, Business Express.
As the race for the Director General of the World Trade Organization peaks, Nigerian former Minister of Finance Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala looks set to clinch the coveted position. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who said she was undaunted even though the World Trade Organization promises to be a tough one, expressed confidence that she remained the most qualified candidate for the job as the selection process reaches a critical stage. This comes amid reports that the European Union governments have endorsed her for the final phase of the selection process. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so join us again on Thursday at 9:30 in the morning for another episode. Until then, make sure you stay safe and follow all the set down guidelines. I am Muplang Dakok.